Welcome and thank you for joining me on this tranquil journey into the heart of ancient Egypt. Tonight, we will explore a world filled with monumental constructions, intense labor, and enduring beliefs that have shaped history for millennia. Our focus will be on the lives of those who built the Great Pyramids, who worked tirelessly, often under harsh conditions, to create one of the most enduring symbols of ancient civilization. Imagine yourself standing in the blistering heat of the Egyptian desert, the sun beating down on your neck as you witness the immense structures rising slowly against the horizon. You're surrounded by workers, all tirelessly laboring, each with their own purpose, each contributing to the massive task at hand. The air is thick with the dust of the desert. The sounds of hammers on stone echo through the heat. Pry, and the distant cry of a foreman can be heard as the work continues. As we take this journey together, we will walk alongside the workers who toiled on these immense structures. Those who gave so much of their lives to build something that would last for thousands of years. We will also explore the powerful leaders who directed these efforts, the spiritual beliefs that underpinned their society, and the stark contrast between the laborers and the nobility who lived in luxury. So, as you listen to the rhythms of the past, let yourself slow down. Feel the weight of the ancient desert air on your shoulders. Breathe in the faint scent of earth and stone. Imagine yourself as part of this world connected to the past through every stone placed, every tool swung, every step forward in the journey of these extraordinary people. Now, let us step into the lives of the workers who spent their days building the pyramids, those men and women who gave their sweat and strength to the massive undertaking, but who did so in conditions far from luxurious. Picture yourself waking before the sun. The air is still cool, and the shadows stretch long across the desert sand. The workers' village is awakening. Around you, the murmurs of your fellow laborers rise as they gather for the day's work. You are not a slave, but neither are you a free man. You are a long-term laborer, someone who has spent much of his life working on the pyramids, just as your father and grandfather did before you. The work is grueling. Every day is a repetition of the last hauling stones, chiseling them into shape, and placing them with great precision. The massive stones, some weighing several tons, are hauled across the desert using ropes, levers, and sheer muscle power. The sun climbs higher, and the heat becomes oppressive. You can feel the sweat trickling down your back, soaking through the thin linen tunic you wear. For lunch, a small portion of flatbread, perhaps some onions or lentils, and water is offered. The food is simple, and though it sustains you, it does little to comfort you during the long, tiring hours under the sun. Occasionally, you are able to rest in the shade of a makeshift shelter, but only for short periods of time. There is always another task to be done, another stone to be lifted, another row of bricks to be laid. The work camps are not luxurious by any means. The sleeping quarters are sparse, with little protection from the element. The heat of the desert sun is merciless, and the night brings little respite. The sounds of the night are punctuated by the soft whispers of workers speaking to one another, trying to find comfort in the company of their fellow laborers. At times, disease spreads through the camp, and the weak or ill are taken away. Life is fragile here. Disease is an ever-present threat. The workers are far from the safety of the cities, and medical help is limited. When sickness strikes, it spreads quickly. The narrow streets of the labor camps are filled with the sounds of coughing, moaning, and the occasional shout of a foreman commanding more work. There is little time for rest, little time for recovery. The work must go on. Still, there are moments of calm. The rhythmic sound of the tools at work chisels, tapping against stone, becomes a kind of steady drumbeat to your life. Though the work is tiring, there is a rhythm to it. A predictable pattern that allows you to lose yourself in the day. At times, you might glance up and see the pyramids rising above you, their massive shape almost hypnotic. The sight of those grand structures reminds you of your place in the grand scheme of things. Your toil, though difficult and demanding, is part of something greater than you, a symbol that will stand the test of time. As you prepare for another day of labor, you feel the weight of your role in the pyramid's construction. It is a role that will last for many more years, perhaps even decades. But in your heart, there is a quiet sense of pride and knowledge that despite the hardships, you are part of something that will endure long after your body is dust. As the sun continues its journey across the sky, we shift our focus from the harsh labor of the pyramid workers to the political landscape of ancient Egypt. It is the reign of Ramses II, one of Egypt's most influential pharaohs. That looms large over the era of pyramid construction. Even if his reign came after the height of the pyramid building age, Ramses II, known as Ramses the Great, would leave a legacy that would endure far beyond his own time. Ramses II ascended to the throne at a young age, ruling for an extraordinary 66 years. His reign was one of monumental political, military, and cultural achievement. Imagine yourself stepping into the royal court, where wealth, power, and luxury abound. You are surrounded by courtiers, dignitaries, and scribes, all whispering of the pharaoh's greatness. Ramses, with his strong and commanding presence, presides over the most powerful empire in the ancient world. His name alone is synonymous with power, as he would lead Egypt into battles and conflicts that would shape its destiny. Ramses was a prolific builder, commissioning the construction of temples, monuments, and statues in his own honor, some of which still stands today. His most famous architectural feat is the creation of the magnificent temples at Abu Simbel, carved directly into the mountainside. These towering structures, with their massive statues of Ramses himself, were designed to assert Egypt's strength and dominance over its enemies. The grandeur of these temples, designed to last for millennia, reflects Ramses' desire to ensure his legacy would endure long after his reign. While Ramses was known for his military prowess, his reign was also marked by periods of peace and diplomatic success. P famously negotiated a peace treaty with the Hittites, one of Egypt's most formidable adversaries, after a fierce battle at Kadesh. This peace treaty, the first of its kind in history, stands as a testament to Ramses's diplomatic skill. It is often said that Ramses, ever the self-promoter, portrayed the battle as a great victory, even though the outcome was more of a stalemate. Yet, for all his military glory, Ramses's reign was not one of constant warfare. It was also a time of prosperity and stability for the Egyptian people. In the royal court, life was vastly different from the camps where the workers toiled under the desert sun. Imagine the luxury of the palace, a sprawling complex adorned with gold and precious stone, where incense burns constantly in the background, filling the air with soothing fragrances. The nobles and scribes attend to matters of governance, while artists and craftsmen work to create the masterpieces that will immortalize Ramses. The court is a world apart, untouched by the grueling labor that the workers endure to build the structures that will honor the pharaoh. But despite the splendor of the royal life, Ramses's reign was also marked by a strong sense of dynastic continuity. He sought to cement his legacy by ensuring his many children would carry on his name and rule Egypt after him. His extensive family, with over 100 children, played key roles in the political and military affairs of the kingdom, continuing the tradition of Egypt's royal bloodline. Ramses's reign also left a spiritual imprint on Egypt. His devotion to the gods and to his role as a divine ruler was evident in the temples he built and the numerous religious rituals he participated in. Egypt, at the time, was deeply religious, with the pharaoh seen as a living god. The gods were invoked to bless the country with prosperity, and it was believed that the pharaoh's power was derived from the divine realm. Yet, despite the grandeur of his reign, the lives of the pyramid workers and the common people of Egypt remained much the same. The grandeur of the royal court, the military victory, and the monumental constructions were all built upon the backs of the laborers. While Ramses and his elite lived in luxury, it was the workers who labored in the scorching desert sun to erect the temples, statues, and pyramids that would immortalize Egypt's greatness. Ramses's reign, though one of prosperity, was still defined by a stark contrast between the lives of the elite and the common folk who made it all possible. Now that we've seen the contrast between the lives of the laborers and the grandeur of Egypt's royal rulers, we turn to one of the most fascinating and mysterious aspects of Egyptian culture, the Book of the Dead. This ancient text, often misunderstood and shrouded in mystery, was a crucial part of the Egyptians' beliefs about death and the afterlife. Imagine yourself stepping into an ancient tomb, the air heavy with the weight of centuries. You see before you the walls adorned with intricate painting scenes of gods, the afterlife, and the souls of the dead. The Book of the Dead is not a single book, but rather a collection of spells, ceremonies, prayers, and rituals, carefully written on papyrus scrolls, pre-intended to guide the deceased through the dangers and trials of the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that death was merely a transition, not an end. To them, the afterlife was a continuation of life on earth, but one that required careful navigation. The soul, or ka, would embark on a journey through the underworld, facing numerous obstacles, demons, and challenges, before reaching the final judgment. Here, in this final judgment, the deceased's heart would be weighed against the feather of Mat, the goddess of truth and justice. If the heart was found to be pure, the soul would be granted eternal life. In the field of reeds, a paradise, a peace, and abundance. But if the heart was heavy with sin, it would be devoured by Ammit, the demoness of devorment, and the soul would cease to exist. For this reason, the Book of the Dead was of paramount importance. It was filled with spells and incantations, designed to protect the deceased during their perilous journey through the afterlife. These texts were often written on papyrus scrolls, placed in the tomb with the deceased, and sometimes even inscribed on the walls of the tomb itself. The spells were intended to offer guidance, protection, and the ability to overcome the various challenges faced in the afterlife. One of the most striking aspects of the Book of the Dead is its deeply personal nature. While it was used by many, no two copies were exactly the same. Each one was tailored to the individual's needs, beliefs, and status. For the wealthy, their Book of the Dead might be elaborately illustrated with detailed scenes of gods and divine protection. For the poorer classes, the texts were simpler, though still vital to their journey. As you read through the scrolls, you come across prayers asking for protection from serpents and other dangers, spells to guide the deceased past terrifying demons, and pleas for help from the gods. The Egyptian belief in the afterlife was not one of passive hope, but of active participation. The deceased was expected to know the spells, to recite them in the afterlife, and to invoke the power of the gods. It was a world in which the boundaries between the living and the dead were fluid, where the deceased could communicate with the living through offerings, prayers, and rituals. The Book of the Dead was not only a guide for the deceased, but also a reflection of the Egyptian worldview. It underscored the importance of balance, justice, and truth, values that were central to Egyptian life. The concept of Mat, or cosmic order, was fundamental to their beliefs, and the afterlife was seen as a continuation of this balance. To pass into the afterlife was to ensure that one's life had been lived in accordance with Mat truth, justice, and harmony. Interestingly, the Book of the Dead was not an invention of the ancient Egyptians alone. Over time, it evolved into a more standardized text, with common themes and spells that were adopted across different regions and dynasties. The idea of an afterlife and the guidance for it was so deeply ingrained in Egyptian culture that the Book of the Dead remained an essential part of funerary practices for over a millennium. Despite its importance, Much of the knowledge contained within the Book of the Dead remained a mystery for centuries. Only through the discovery of numerous papyri, murals, and archaeological findings have scholars been able to piece together the complete picture of Egyptian beliefs surrounding death. Even now, the text continues to be a source of fascination, offering a window into the minds of a people who believed that death was not the end, but rather the beginning of a new journey. Imagine yourself, once again, standing in front of an ancient tomb. The heavy silence of the past envelops you. You see the figures painted on the walls, the gods watching over the dead, the prayers and spells inscribed on the walls in delicate hieroglyphs. The Book of the Dead is a guide, a map, and a companion for the soul's journey to the afterlife. It is a reminder of how deeply the ancient Egyptians intertwined their spiritual beliefs with every aspect of their life, from their labor to their final moments. As we draw closer to the end of our journey through ancient Egypt, we find ourselves contrasting the lives of the pyramid builders, the laborers and common folk with the lavish existence of the Egyptian noble. The difference between these two groups could not have been starker. Spies, the ruling elite of Egypt, enjoyed lives of comfort and wealth unimaginable to those working on the pyramids. Imagine stepping into the grand hall of an Egyptian noble's home. The air is cool, with incense gently wafting through the columns. The walls are adorned with vibrant murals, depicting scenes of feasts, hunting trips, and divine offerings to the gods. Soft carpets cover the floors, and large windows allow light to filter in through the open spaces. You walk across smooth floors, where polished stone and fine would create an atmosphere of luxury. The nobles of Egypt lived in expansive, well-constructed homes that were not only shelters but symbols of their elevated status. Their clothing is fine, made from linen that is soft and cool against the skin. Men wear kilts of the finest fabric, embroidered with intricate designs, while women dress in flowing gowns, often adorned with beads, gold, and precious stone. Jewelry is abundant gold, bracelets, necklaces, and headdresses all, signifying their wealth and high rank in Egyptian society. The elite would wear cosmetics and perfumes to further enhance their appearance, with scented oils being applied generously to their skin. Feasts were a common occurrence in the homes of Egyptian nobles. Imagine being seated at a grand table, surrounded by a variety of dishes. Roasted meats, goose, lamb, and fish are laid out alongside fresh fruits, vegetables, and fine bread. Wine, brewed from the best vineyards, is poured into silver and gold cups, and the sounds of music fill the air as harpists and singers entertain the guests. Please. These feasts were not just for enjoyment, but served as opportunities for political alliances, socializing and reaffirming the status of the host. In the noble courts, daily life was centered around rituals and ceremonies that upheld Egypt's divine order. The nobles were the ones closest to the pharaoh, often acting as his advisors, military leaders, and overseers of the vast empire. They lived in the royal court, attended religious rituals, and were responsible for maintaining the stability of Egypt's political structure. Imagine yourself in the presence of the pharaoh, surrounded by the high-ranking priests and officials. There, in the grand temples, elaborate ceremonies take place, invoking the gods to ensure the prosperity of Egypt, while the workers toiled under the harsh desert sun. The noble class had their own responsibilities. They were expected to perform their duties with great precision, overseeing lands, armies, and temples. The noblesse power came from their proximity to the pharaoh and their role in upholding the divine order of the state. However, even in this world of luxury, there were duties. Nobles played an integral part in organizing the labor force that built the pyramids. They oversaw the workers, ensuring that the massive construction projects continued to move forward. But their lives were vastly different from the laborers who spent their days in the fields or the quarries. Nobles were sheltered from the exhausting and dangerous physical work that characterized the lives of common Egyptians. The lives of the Egyptian elite were not only about luxury, but also about divine responsibility. As rulers of Egypt's religious and political landscape, nobles were expected to honor the gods, maintain justice, and keep the cosmic balance of matter. Their daily routines were intertwined with offerings and prayers to the gods, and they often participated in rituals meant to ensure Egypt's prosperity and the welfare of the people. Temples dedicated to gods like Amun-Ra and Osiris were central to noble life, where priests conducted daily rituals and offerings, sometimes under the direct supervision of the nobles themselves. Imagine the noble's palace at dusk. The sun begins to set, casting an orange glow over the Nile. The sounds of distant workers fade into the background as the royal court prepares for evening rituals. Servants light oil lamps, casting a soft glow across the marble floors. Music plays in the background, creating a serene atmosphere. As the nobles prepare for the evening's entertainment, perhaps a banquet or a formal gathering. This is a world of comfort and ceremony, of power and influence, where the worries of daily labor are far from their minds. But as the nobles of Egypt enjoyed their comfort and status, they were always aware of the precariousness of their position. The divine mandate that elevated them to their position of power also came with the responsibility of maintaining order and prosperity in the land. They were, in many ways, the stewards of Egypt's greatness, ensuring that its legacy, both spiritual and political, was preserved for future generations. The lives of these elite Egyptians were centered around their connection to the divine. They were seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people, which gave them power, wealth, and influence. Their homes, their clothing, their feasts, and their rituals were all part of this divine connection. Their world was one of relative peace, comfort, and luxury, but it was also one of immense responsibility, as they were the keepers of Egypt's legacy and the guarantors of the nation's stability. as we draw our journey through the vast expanse of ancient Egypt to a close. We reflect on the stark contrasts that defined life in this magnificent civilization. Be pyramid workers who labored under harsh conditions to create the monumental structures that still stand today. Lived lives marked by exhaustion, disease, and simplicity. Their daily struggles were far removed from the opulence of the elite, who basked in luxury, power, and comfort. Their lives centered around divine duties and grand rituals. The reign of Ramses II reminds us that even within such an imposing empire, the lives of the common people often went unnoticed in the annals of history. It was through the collective efforts of laborers, artisans, and workers that the greatness of Egypt was achieved. Yet it is the nobles, with their riches and political influence, who are most often remembered. Book of the Dead, with its spells and prayers, reveals a profound belief in the afterlife, where the journey beyond death was just as important as life itself. It is a reminder that in ancient Egypt, every part of life, whether it was the humble labor of workers or the grand rituals of nobles, was intricately connected to the spiritual world. As we close this chapter of history, we reflect on how far we have come from those ancient times. But in the quiet moments, as you drift towards sleep, you might find yourself thinking of the workers in the desert sun, the nobles in their luxurious courts, and the eternal pyramids that still rise over the sands of Egypt. These echoes of the past remind us that, though the lives of the ancient Egyptians were shaped by hardships and contrasts, their civilization continues to captivate and inspire us. Thank you for joining me on this soothing journey through ancient Egypt. Let your mind drift gently, like the waters of the Nile, as you ease into rest. Good night, and may your dreams carry you through the timeless sands of history.